In a land called Uz, a man named Job stood out, not just for his wealth, but for his unwavering faith. Imagine having everything you could ever desire: a loving family, abundant blessings, and the respect of your peers. But what happens when everything crumbles in the blink of an eye? What if the very foundation of your faith is shaken, leaving you questioning not just your circumstances, but the nature of justice itself? As we unravel Job's story, we'll delve into a profound dialogue between God and Satan, where faith is tested in unimaginable ways. Picture Job, sitting in ashes, grappling with devastating loss, his friends offering misguided comfort while he struggles to understand the silence of God. Why do the innocent suffer? How can despair coexist with faith? And as Job wrestles with his reality, he yearns to confront the Almighty, to voice his anguish. But what if this struggle is the very key to unlocking a powerful secret every believer should discover? Stay with us as we explore the depths of Job's trials and perhaps uncover a timeless truth that resonates with every faithful heart. When we delve into the age-old question of why good people suffer, our thoughts often drift towards the story of Job. This biblical tale serves as a profound exploration of human suffering and raising questions that resonate through the ages. The story is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. How can a just and loving God allow the innocent to endure pain and loss? Job stands as a testament to this dilemma, embodying the struggle between faith and despair. The narrative invites us to reflect on our own experiences, prompting us to contemplate the nature of suffering and its place in our lives. Job's story is not just about suffering. It's also about the human condition and our quest for understanding. People often wonder why calamity strikes those who seem to live virtuous lives, adhering to moral codes and engaging in acts of righteousness. Job, a wealthy man with a devoted family, epitomizes the ideal figure who seemingly deserves nothing but goodness in return for his piety. Yet, as the events unfold, we witness the profound suffering that befalls him, leaving us to question the very fabric of justice in the universe. How can one reconcile the existence of suffering with the concept of a benevolent deity? The exploration of suffering through Job's lens invites discussions that transcend religious boundaries. It challenges us to confront our own beliefs and assumptions about morality, justice, and the human experience. It's a narrative that forces us to ask tough questions about the world we live in and the nature of the divine. Why do we suffer? Is it a test, a punishment, or simply a part of life? These questions linger in the air as we journey through Job's trials, urging us to seek answers not just in ancient texts, but in our own lives. As we consider the broader implications of suffering, we may also find solace in the reminder that we are not alone in our struggles. The story of Job resonates with countless individuals who have faced their own tribulations, providing a sense of connection and understanding. It invites us to share our stories, to empathize with one another, and to find meaning in our collective experiences of pain and perseverance. In this way, Job's narrative serves not only as a reflection on suffering, but also as a source of hope and resilience. Job is introduced to us as a man of exceptional virtue and integrity. He is portrayed as upright, blameless, and deeply respected in his community. His wealth is not merely a reflection of material success, but also of the blessings that come from living a righteous life. Job is a man who embodies the principles of faith, morality, and devotion. His daily rituals of purification and offerings to God reveal a character committed to maintaining a relationship with the divine, showcasing the importance of spiritual practice in his life. The richness of Job's character extends beyond his material possessions. He is a devoted husband and father, deeply invested in the well-being of his family. His children are described as living in harmony, celebrating life together. This idyllic portrait of Job's life serves as a backdrop for the stark contrast that follows when suffering enters the scene. His integrity and righteousness make his subsequent trials all the more poignant, raising the stakes and deepening the emotional impact of the narrative. As we analyze Job's characteristics, we see a man who is not just a passive victim of circumstance. He actively engages in rituals and prayers, demonstrating a proactive approach to his faith. His commitment to living a moral life positions him as a figure of inspiration, someone who strives to uphold ethical standards even when faced with adversity. This aspect of his character invites readers to reflect on their own lives and the values they hold dear. How do we respond to challenges in our own lives? Do we maintain our integrity in the face of hardship? Job's virtues also set the stage for the profound questions that arise later in the story. His unwavering faith and moral grounding create a tension that amplifies the significance of his suffering. As calamity strikes, the audience is left grappling with the apparent injustice of his situation. Job's character serves as a vessel for exploring the complexities of faith, justice, and the human experience. His life becomes a canvas on which the themes of suffering and resilience are painted with broad strokes. In many ways, Job's characteristics challenge us to examine our own lives and the principles we stand by. They compel us to consider the importance of integrity, devotion, and moral fortitude in navigating the trials we face. As we witness Job's journey, we are reminded that our responses to suffering reveal much about our character and our relationship with the divine. The narrative takes a dramatic turn with the introduction of a celestial dialogue that pits God against Satan. This conversation reveals a pivotal moment in the story, as Satan challenges Job's faithfulness, suggesting that his righteousness is merely a product of his prosperity. The implications of this challenge are profound, raising questions about the nature of faith and the role of suffering in the human experience. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable notion that our beliefs and integrity may be tested in ways we least expect. In this heavenly exchange, God permits Satan to test Job, setting the stage for an exploration of loyalty and faith under duress. This decision highlights a crucial aspect of the narrative, the concept of free will versus divine sovereignty. Are we merely puppets in a cosmic play, or do our choices matter? The challenge posed by Satan suggests that true faith must withstand trials. It cannot be superficial or contingent upon favorable circumstances. This notion adds layers of complexity to our understanding of faith and suffering. As the story unfolds, the challenge of Satan introduces an element of cosmic drama that extends beyond Job's personal suffering. It raises existential questions about the nature of good and evil, the role of divine authority, and the complexities of human belief. This dialogue serves as a reminder that our struggles may not always be confined to the earthly realm. They can have cosmic implications that shape our understanding of the universe and our place within it. Job's response to the challenge set forth by Satan becomes a focal point in the narrative. Despite the calamities that befall him, he initially maintains his faith and refuses to curse God. This resilience serves as a powerful testament to the strength of his character and unwavering belief, compelling readers to reflect on their own responses to adversity. If faced with similar trials, would we exhibit the same level of steadfastness? Job's story invites us to consider the depth of our convictions and the resilience of our faith. The challenge of Satan ultimately serves as a catalyst for the exploration of suffering, faith, and divine justice. It prompts us to examine the complexities of our beliefs and the nature of our relationship with the divine. As we navigate our own challenges, we are reminded that faith is often tested in the crucible of suffering, compelling us to confront our beliefs and the very essence of our humanity. The narrative of Job unfolds with a series of devastating losses that leave him bereft and broken. In quick succession, he loses his wealth, his children, and his servants, plunging him into a depth of despair that is hard to comprehend. Each calamity is depicted with stark realism, underscoring the severity of his suffering and the profound impact it has on his life. The sheer magnitude of these losses serves to highlight the fragility of human existence and the unpredictability of fate. Job's reaction to these tragedies is both poignant and telling. Initially, he responds with an astonishing degree of grace, expressing a profound sense of acceptance. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord, he proclaims, embodying a faith that defies explanation. This response invites readers to ponder the nature of grief and resilience. How do we cope with loss? Do we find solace in faith, or do we grapple with anger and despair? Job's reaction becomes a focal point for contemplations on the human experience of suffering. As the narrative progresses, the losses take a toll on Job's psyche, leading him to the brink of despair. His once vibrant life is reduced to a painful silence, and the weight of his suffering becomes almost unbearable. In this moment of darkness, Job's humanity shines through, revealing the depths of his anguish and the struggle to make sense of his plight. It is a powerful reminder that suffering can strip away our defenses, exposing our vulnerabilities and our longing for understanding. The losses that Job endures also serve as a backdrop for the exploration of friendship and support during times of crisis. As his friends arrive, they witness his suffering and are initially moved to comfort him. However, as the story unfolds, their responses shift from empathy to misguided assumptions about Job's culpability. This dynamic adds another layer to the narrative, highlighting the complexities of human relationships in the face of suffering. How do we support those who are grieving? What happens when our attempts to help fall short? Job's tragic losses ultimately serve as a catalyst for profound reflection on the nature of suffering, resilience, and the human condition. They compel us to confront our own experiences of loss and the ways we navigate the complexities of grief. As we witness Job's journey, we are reminded that suffering is an inherent part of life, shaping our understanding of ourselves and our relationships with others. In the depths of despair, we may discover the strength to endure and the hope to rise again. As we delve into the narrative of Job, we encounter a profound moment when his physical suffering becomes painfully evident. After losing everything he held dear, Job is afflicted with painful sores that cover his body. Imagine the despair he must have felt, a once prosperous man reduced to a state of suffering that many could hardly bear. His friends, hearing of his misfortunes, rush to his side, eager to provide comfort. Initially, they sit with him in silence, sharing in his grief. It's a poignant moment, showcasing the power of companionship in times of distress. They don't speak for 7 days, a testament to the depth of Job's anguish and the respect they hold for his suffering. However, what starts as a compassionate visit soon takes a turn, as these friends begin to voice their opinions about Job's calamities. They assume that his misfortunes must be a punishment for some hidden sin, reflecting a common belief of the time that suffering is always a direct consequence of wrongdoing. This assumption leads them to question Job's integrity, suggesting that he must have done something to deserve such a fate. Their attempts to provide comfort transform into speculations that only intensify Job's suffering. The very people who came to support him inadvertently become a source of more pain. The friends' arguments are steeped in the traditional wisdom of their culture, which equates prosperity with divine favor and suffering with divine disfavor. They represent a rigid understanding of justice that leaves little room for the complexities of human experience. Job, in turn, finds himself increasingly isolated in his suffering as he grapples with the weight of their accusations. Each assertion made by his friends seems to chip away at the foundation of his innocence, leading him to feel not only physically ill, but emotionally abandoned. This dynamic raises critical questions about the nature of friendship and support during times of crisis. As the dialogues unfold, Job's frustration grows. He wants to defend himself and articulate his innocence, but he's also deeply longing for understanding. The friends, rather than offering solace, become unwitting antagonists in his quest for clarity. Job's physical pain is compounded by the emotional turmoil brought on by their misguided attempts to help. It serves as a reminder that sometimes, in our eagerness to comfort others, we may inadvertently cause more harm than good. The struggle to find the right words in the face of another's suffering is a delicate balance that Job's friends fail to achieve. In the end, Job's physical suffering becomes a backdrop to a more profound exploration of the human condition. His friends, while initially well-meaning, illustrate the pitfalls of simplistic thinking when confronted with the complexities of suffering. Their failure to acknowledge Job's innocence and unique situation only deepens his despair. This moment in the narrative invites readers to reflect on how we respond to the suffering of others and challenges us to offer empathy over judgment. In the midst of his agony, Job wrestles with his sense of justice and innocence. He is adamant that he has not committed any wrongdoing to warrant such suffering. This assertion becomes a focal point in his dialogues with his friends, who seem unable to accept his claims. Job's struggle is not merely about defending himself. It's a profound inner conflict that reflects his desire for answers from God. He yearns for direct communication with the divine, hoping that God will clarify why he, a righteous man, is suffering unjustly. This quest for understanding illustrates a universal human experience, the longing for answers in the face of inexplicable pain. As Job grapples with his circumstances, he experiences moments of doubt and anguish. He questions the very foundations of faith and justice, wondering why the righteous suffer while the wicked prosper. His desire to confront God directly is driven by a deep-seated need for validation and understanding. Job's longing for a response from God is palpable, as he seeks reassurance that his suffering is not an indication of divine abandonment. This internal battle reveals the complexity of faith during times of distress, as Job navigates feelings of betrayal alongside his unwavering belief in God's justice. The tension between Job's innocence and his desire for answers creates a rich narrative tension. He finds himself in a place where traditional explanations for suffering fall short, leading him to challenge the status quo. Job's insistence on his innocence is not merely a defense, it is a declaration of his humanity. He refuses to be silenced by the accusations of his friends or by the weight of his suffering. Instead, he demands a hearing, a chance to articulate his grief and confusion directly to God. This desire for dialogue underscores the importance of communication in the search for understanding, especially when faced with profound injustice. As the narrative progresses, Job's quest for answers becomes increasingly desperate. He is caught in a web of emotions: pain, anger, confusion, all while maintaining a flicker of hope that God will reveal himself. This hope is not naive, rather, it is rooted in a deep and abiding faith in God's justice. Job embodies the struggle of many believers who find themselves questioning their faith in the face of suffering. His story resonates with anyone who has ever felt abandoned in their pain, grappling with the silence of the divine. Ultimately, Job's journey becomes a testament to the complexity of faith, suffering, and the human condition. His insistence on his innocence and his desire for answers challenge both his friends and the readers to reconsider the nature of justice and the role of suffering in a believer's life. Job's story invites us to engage with our own questions about suffering, urging us to seek understanding while holding on to hope, even in the darkest of times. Job's situation continues to evolve as he wrestles with his faith amidst overwhelming suffering. His questioning of divine justice reveals a deep longing for understanding. Despite the calamities that have befallen him, Job maintains a flicker of hope that a Redeemer will come to advocate for him. This hope is a critical aspect of his faith. It underscores his belief that in the end, justice will prevail. Job's desire for a Redeemer reflects a profound theological insight, as he clings to the notion that his suffering is not without purpose. He believes that God, in his infinite wisdom, will ultimately bring resolution to his plight. As Job articulates his questions and frustrations, he also expresses a yearning for a direct encounter with God. He imagines a courtroom scenario where he can present his case, seeking clarity and justice for the wrongs he has endured. This desire for a personal dialogue with the divine highlights the depth of Job's relationship with God, marked by both reverence and urgency. Job's faith is not passive, it is an active engagement with his circumstances. He refuses to accept silence as an answer, demonstrating a profound commitment to seeking truth, even when that truth is painful. When God finally responds, it is not in the way that Job expects. Instead of addressing Job's specific grievances, God speaks of the vastness of creation and his omnipotence. This divine response serves as both a reminder of God's sovereignty and a challenge to Job's understanding of justice. God's words highlight the limitations of human perspective, urging Job to recognize that there are mysteries beyond human comprehension. This moment is pivotal. It reorients Job's understanding of his suffering and the nature of God. Rather than providing answers in the way Job anticipated, God invites him to consider the bigger picture. Job's encounter with the divine becomes a transformative experience. In the face of God's greatness, Job is compelled to reassess his own limitations. He recognizes that his desire for answers, while valid, must be tempered by an acknowledgement of God's infinite wisdom. This realization leads to a profound humility in Job, as he understands that not all suffering can be easily explained or understood. Job's faith is deepened, not diminished by this encounter. It emphasizes the idea that faith often involves trusting in the divine plan, even when that plan remains shrouded in mystery. Through Job's story, we are invited to contemplate the complexities of faith and the nature of divine justice. His journey from questioning to humility illustrates the transformative power of encountering God. Job's ultimate realization that God's ways are higher than his own serves as a reminder for all believers to hold on to faith, even in moments of doubt. The narrative challenges us to seek understanding while also embracing the mysteries of our existence, recognizing that sometimes faith is about trusting in the unseen. As Job sat in the dust, grappling with the enormity of his suffering, a profound realization began to dawn upon him. The deep anguish that had consumed him was intertwined with an understanding of his own limitations. While he had long believed himself to be a righteous man, his encounters with loss and despair opened his eyes to the vastness of God's wisdom compared to his own. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing not just his sufferings, but also the enormity of the Creator's power and majesty. This moment of clarity was pivotal. It marked the beginning of Job's journey toward repentance. Job's acknowledgement of God's greatness was not merely a passive recognition, it was an active, humbling response to the trials he had endured. In confronting the reality of his situation, he found himself in a position of vulnerability, leading him to question the very fabric of his understanding of justice and righteousness. How could he, a mere mortal, fully comprehend the ways of an omnipotent God? This epiphany fostered a sense of humility within Job, a quality that, despite his earlier assertions of innocence, was crucial for his spiritual growth. It was here, in the depths of despair, that he began to grasp the concept of repentance, not as a means of admitting guilt, but as an acknowledgement of his limited perspective and the need for divine grace. The process of repentance is often complicated, and Job's experience was no exception. As he wrestled with his feelings of inadequacy, he found himself torn between his desire for justice and the realization that perhaps his understanding of righteousness was too narrow. This internal conflict was marked by an intense emotional struggle. Job had spent countless days defending his integrity, but now he was confronted with the possibility that his righteousness was insufficient in the face of divine mystery. He began to understand that true repentance was not merely about confessing sins, but about embracing a posture of humility before God. In this light, Job's acknowledgement of his limitations became a transformative moment in his life. It was a turning point that allowed him to shift his focus from his suffering to the greatness of God. He recognized that his previous arguments and demands for answers were, in essence, a challenge to God's authority. By relinquishing his insistence on understanding every aspect of his suffering, Job opened the door to a deeper relationship with God, one built on trust rather than mere comprehension. This shift in perspective was not easy, but it was necessary for Job to move forward. Ultimately, this journey toward repentance was not just about Job. It served as a profound lesson for anyone grappling with the complexities of faith and suffering. It highlighted the importance of recognizing human limitations in the face of divine omniscience. Job's story reminds us that while we may seek answers and demand justice, there is a greater purpose at work that may transcend our understanding. In embracing our own limitations, we can find a path toward deeper faith, allowing us to rest in the knowledge that God is sovereign, even in the midst of our trials. After Job's profound moment of repentance, the narrative takes a remarkable turn towards restoration. God, in his infinite mercy, initiated a process that would not only restore Job's fortunes, but would also reaffirm the depth of his grace. The restoration was not merely a return to the status quo, it was an elevation to a new level of blessing, demonstrating that God honors those who remain steadfast in faith even amidst suffering. Job's life was about to be transformed in ways that he could hardly have imagined during his darkest hours. Job's restoration began with the blessing of new children. The text describes how Job was given 7 sons and 3 daughters, a grace that mirrored the original blessings he had lost. This new family, while not a replacement for the ones he had mourned, symbolized a fresh start, a testament to the idea that life continues and can flourish even after devastating loss. The names of his daughters, given significance in the narrative, hinted at the beauty and joy that had been restored to his life. In a culture where lineage and heritage were paramount, this restoration was personal and communal, illustrating the continuation of Job's legacy. In addition to his new family, Job's material wealth was also restored. God gave him twice as much as he had before, underscoring a theme prevalent throughout the book, that faithfulness in suffering often leads to greater blessings. This restoration was not just a reward for Job's patience, but a declaration of God's faithfulness to those who endure trials. It served as a reminder that even in the depths of despair, hope exists for renewal and abundance. The narrative emphasizes that God's blessings come in various forms, often beyond what we can comprehend or expect. Yet the restoration of Job was not solely about material wealth or familial ties. It marked a significant shift in Job's spiritual journey. Through his trials, Job had gained a deeper understanding of God's nature, which enriched his faith. The trials had transformed his perspective, enabling him to appreciate the blessings with greater gratitude and humility. This new relationship with God, forged in the crucible of suffering, became the cornerstone of Job's restored life. He was not merely restored, he was renewed in spirit, equipped to navigate life's complexities with newfound wisdom. As the narrative concludes, it is evident that Job's story extends beyond personal restoration. It serves as a monumental lesson in faith and resilience. It illustrates that suffering can lead to profound spiritual growth and that restoration is possible even after the deepest heartaches. Job's journey reminds us that while life may present us with unimaginable trials, there is hope for renewal and a promise of blessings, echoing the timeless truth that God is always at work, even when we cannot see it.